Sweet.
Hey folks, my name is Bill Cook, and fortunate to have Lindsay Jensen and Michael Jake, two very longtime friends of mine who I love dearly. And we're going to talk a little bit about real estate investing, especially as it concerns this market, what's going on right now, because real estate is always changing, and Lord knows we're in change right now. We're in some type of flux. So, Michael, when did you get into real estate investing?
Well, I bought my first house to be an investment back in 2000. My first deal was a house I was going to live in with the plan of eventually turning it into a rental and kind of continuing to replace that. So I never really got to full time until about 2003 after planning a wedding and, getting through all that. So
And where do you invest?
Colorado Springs exclusively at this point. I have been a lot of the Front Range, Pueblo, Denver, and even at one point in Florida, a couple of markets in Florida, but predominantly I've been a Colorado Springs investor in the surrounding area.
Okay, and you said that you really got started in 2000. You got started before 2003. So, but when did you start?
Well, again, I wasn't married yet, but I bought my first house with the intent of converting it to a long-term investment, and did a bit of a house hack for the first one. And but then shortly thereafter I met my wife. We then bought another house together. We right before we got married. And after we got married, then I started, hitting the ground heavy with planning to do this as a business.
And when that first house that you planned to use as an investment house, when was that?
2000.
Got it. Okay. And so how did you get started? So you get this idea. Where did the idea of real estate investing come from? What appealed to you about real estate investing, and how did you get started? How did you learn?
My first influence was my friend Sean growing up. His dad was always a business guy, started businesses, sold them. And at one point when I was in high school and knew enough to see what was going on, he started doing real estate investing, both buying rentals and doing some flips and things like that. And that sort of soaked in. And then I saw my friend Sean sort of following in his footsteps. And, after I bought my first house, I had him as a good reference of what time in the market of real estate does for someone. And I was supposed to be the National Honor Society guy, the smart one, and here I had taken the corporate route, and my friend was in a far superior, like I'm not even going to say how far superior financial situation, just by having a father he could model and basically holding good assets over time. So that was my primary, hey, real estate is a thing, and it can be something I could implement in my life.
And when you were working corporate, was real estate ever a thing for you? Did you look at that, or was it until you met your friend and you said, hey, this is a thing?
Well, I was in corporate America, information technology, up to and after the dot-com bust. And up before the bust, it was going to be a part-time venture while I worked my corporate job to help in my retirement. And after the dot-com bust, and after getting called into a huge auditorium and told 30% of us aren't going to have jobs, I decided to maybe put a little bit more emphasis on the real estate as opposed to corporate job security. So that was my real push to make a, not just a long-term investing model, but also a business venture out of.
And looking back, was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I thank God for the layoffs and the stress associated with that, because I may have never have left my job. I might have been just miserable enough to stick it out, because of the benefits, right?
Yeah.
But no, it was great, and I have a very supportive wife who backed me on that and said, hey, if it can be done, we can do it together, and that meant everything.
Pretty cool. Lindsay, why did you get started in real estate investing?
My dad's been in real estate since I was a kid, so he is an appraiser. So we used to watch him flip houses. He had side hustles and stuff through real estate. So we used to watch that. And he, being an appraiser, even he had his own business and a lot of freedom. So that's from the time I was little, I remember thinking that's what I want. And so that's where that started.
And where do you invest?
Colorado Springs mostly, and a little bit in Pueblo.
Got it. Okay. And how long have you been investing? When did you get started?
I bought my first house in 2002 and then started renting that in 2004. And then, but didn't start this kind of investing until 6 years ago.
Got it. Okay. And how did you get started? So I'm going back to the 6-year mark. So you sat back and said, hey, I'm going to make this something. How did you get started?
I went to a seminar about real estate, creative real estate investing. And I had no idea that was my first experience with any of that kind of stuff. And it blew my mind. Shortly after, found Michael Jake's meetup and started going to that because he did creative real estate investing. He offered a mentorship mastermind thing. And I was like, I have to be a part of this. And then it took off from there.
And looking back, has it been worth it?
Oh, heck yes. Yeah, changed my life.
So you were able to hit the ground running, Lindsay. How were you able to do this? So in 2016, when you started, and I've known you now for a while, and you're someone who, I mean, you just charge at it. You really don't sit around the bush, sit around on the curb thinking about it. So how are you able to hit the ground running so fast?
I honestly think it's two things. So one thing is that I don't question it when these people are right in front of me saying, this is how I did it. I don't go, yeah, but I just say, oh, okay, if you did it, then I'll do that same exact thing. And so and then the other thing is when Mike said, do something, I just did it. If he said, this is a mentor, I needed to go watch their class, I went to that. If he said, do this, I did it. And then the other part too was, I think, having Michael there to hold my hands through some of these deals. It felt like I was never going to make a bad mistake. You know what I mean? So I had someone who had been through it, looking over my shoulder and doing these deals with me so that it got rid of all the fear.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the main thing is you took action. Since I've known you, you're someone who takes action and takes action and takes action and takes action. And I talk to a lot of people who don't. Okay. They're the opposite of you. They sit on the sidelines and one day they're going to go talk to a seller and one day they're going to go make an offer. What advice would you give to that person?
I started out just by going and looking at as many houses as I could. I didn't focus on whether it was actually going to become a deal. I just wanted to look at the houses and talk to people. So that's how I started. And I probably looked at hundreds of houses before I even got my first deal. So that I think helped propel.
But back up to something you just said. And you talk to the people. So I know that you looked at houses. A lot of people will do that. They'll drive around and look at houses. What gave you the courage to sit down and actually talk to sellers? And what can you, if someone's on the sideline, someone's watching this and they haven't been able to do that, they haven't been able to make, they'll drive and look at houses all day long.
Yeah, I think it was just,
what advice can you give them and say, hey, get out of your car?
I wanted to throw ideas out there at them and see what I could get. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just throwing stuff out. I literally had no idea. I know one of the early deals Michael and I got, he was like, you got this for 115. I had no idea what that house was worth. I just tried to help the seller. But we got a really good deal out of it. But no, in the beginning, I didn't know values. I didn't know what I was doing. I just talked to people and did my marketing. And that's part of it, is I did the marketing, which allowed me to talk to people. So.
But she put herself in front of situations.
Yeah.
That even though she didn't have the breadth of experience yet, she was finding situations, and then she would call me and people like you and get advice. Like, here's a situation, what can I do? And that's far better than, to some extent. I mean, clearly I've read a lot of books. That's how I got started, was at the library and going to RIA meetings and seeing what other successful people were doing. But none of it really clicked until you're actually out there
so much
talking to sellers, getting real situations, and having something real that you could discuss with a mentor or a coach or somebody. And I think that was key.
Yeah, I agree.
And Michael, let me ask you the same question I asked her, because again, you've been around for a long time. We've been friends forever and ever. What advice would you give to someone who's getting into real estate investing, or, and they're not out, they're not doing the main step, which is getting with sellers, talking to sellers, making those offers? What advice can you give someone who's still sitting on the sidelines and not taking action yet?
I think, I've tried to make it as abundantly clear with my local, the folks I kind of coach locally through a meetup group, that, you have to go start with less than perfect information. Like you don't know everything. You're never going to know everything, but you have to just be willing to go out and be bad at something. Knock on a door, even if you don't know what to say. One thing I've known from walking neighborhoods with you, Bill, it's people are more than happy to have a conversation, especially if you're not trying to sell them. You're just trying to talk, have a conversation, ask about a problem property that is next to them, or what's going on in a neighborhood. How long have you lived here? Yeah, I mean, people are so willing to help you if you're just willing to get out and start a conversation. People are generally nice unless you give them a reason not to be.
And how important is that to get out and start the conversation to a real estate investing career? How important is that?
It's imperative. However you're sourcing your deals, you really got to be willing to talk to people. I mean, real estate is a tangible thing, but it always comes with people attached, and you have to be able to understand and talk to people and be able to listen. And even if you don't know a solution, and I think Lindsay was key with this, she was willing to go out and be bad. Like, she didn't know how to structure a deal so much. I mean, she kind of understood basics, but she just wanted to find a situation, talk to somebody, and then have somebody to discuss it with. And then, okay, with this situation, these tools, these real estate tools that we learn can be applied here and help this person solve a problem and put a deal together. And that's key. So being willing to talk to people with less than perfect information, even if you just have a framework to work with, I think it's key. And it's like, if you can't get over that fear, I learned, I read so many books. I was going to RIA meetings. I was going to seminars. And until I was willing to start talking to people, that's when all that book smart started to make sense. And I could have condensed a lot of the book smart stuff into listening to the people that were teaching me at the seminars, and again, being willing, because I over engineer everything, so I wanted to know every A to Z before I did A. And that's not right. You need to be willing to do A, even if you only know A and B. Start.
Great answer. So Michael, again, you've been around for a long time. You've been in this game for a long time. You've seen upsides and downsides. So a lot of investors who are watching this have started investing after 2012. So all they've known is a white hot real estate market, appreciation, houses going up in value like there's no tomorrow, rents going up in value like no tomorrow, interest rates coming down, inflation was very, very low. So and there's a shortage of houses, which drove prices up. So it was just a great, great market to be a real estate investor in, because even if you bought a house and waited 2 years and sold it, you still made a tremendous profit. Whether the deal was good or bad, the market fixed any problem, any mistakes you ever made. So now that we're in some type of transition where we know that inflation is much higher, interest rates are well above the 2.9% they were about this time last year. So things have really changed. How do you work in a market like this, Michael?
Well, let me just, I guess, frame this. My first house I bought with good credit was 7.78%. So, and shortly after the dot bomb, we didn't have a collapse in values, but I was in a situation where I was getting bid out of competitive bidding situations to buy my first house. Does that sound familiar over the last few years? Competitive bids, people overbidding the price. So that's how I bought my house. And then immediately after that, basically the market softened, and I mean, I got a lesson early on in what to do with an unsellable house. So, that said, I rode from 2003 we did a number of transactions. I was ready to go full time in 2003. Didn't till 2004 because we were on my insurance, and we were my wife got pregnant with our son Josh. So as soon as he was born, I said hasta la vista to my manager. I fired him as my boss, and I went full time at that point on. And we had a slow and steady rise, and I learned what worked in that market. And then 2008 happened, and we didn't have 2% rates then. You had situations where the house needed to afford itself. Like that's one thing, we've learned from our mentors, Bill, is every deal has to support itself.
What do you mean by the deal has to support itself? What does that mean?
Well, and what it typically means, like I'm a single family house guy predominantly. So I have to look at putting a deal together that a tenant can afford. So, I look at what were the rates back then. They're irrelevant. The rates that the bank wants are irrelevant in creative finance. They really are. You structure a deal with a homeowner that has a situation. And I found a lot of these situations where people had, quote, unsellable houses via the traditional process, and using creative real estate, we were able to make a situation that worked for the seller, got them out of a problem for them, and an opportunity to me. Again, putting a situation where a tenant could afford this house. And what I mean is a tenant would be willing, a good tenant would be willing to pay X amount for rent for the property. Okay. Back then we didn't have short-term rentals. There wasn't a big midterm rental. Like those are new tools we can apply to market conditions today. But ultimately, whatever my exit strategy had to match with the way I came in the door and financed it as a buyer. So if the tenant can afford that house, I can buy as many of these transactions as possible. And I'm only limited by my ability to manage them as an investor.
And that leads us to Lindsay. Lindsay, you've not been through a downturn like what we're going through right now as an investor, because again, this is really when you got started in 2016. It's been upside. So what are you doing to learn how to work in this market, which is different from the market you were in last year?
I think part of it is I've been, driving Mike and David Tilney and you crazy going, what do I need to expect from what's coming? And I remember asking Mike, I said, do rents go down a lot? Do I need to prepare for that? And he told me not a ton, like maybe a little, or maybe some people will have more trouble paying, but there's not a ton of that. And so what I did is I just took the advice I got from you guys and prepared for it. Instead of waiting until the market changed to change my my plan of action, I started 2 years ago. And a lot of that meant reaching out to new people, marketing and networking with new people, and setting up those referral networks before this hit, because I knew it was coming. And then also building up my network of master leases that I have. I have over 40 master leases that are bringing me monthly income, so that as I go through this market, I don't have to stress about an income supporting my other houses or supporting me. That income is going to support me through this. So I prepared for it ahead of time. And that's because of what I learned from you guys. So I think the master leasing is so key in this, because I have that monthly income, and these people are with me. They don't, they're going to hold on to these houses, and I have that set monthly income. I don't have to do deals that are sketchy or scary just to keep an income coming in. I can wait for good deals.
You use the phrase master lease. Can you explain what a master lease is?
Yes, a master lease is where I rent from the owner and then I sublease to a tenant.
That seems very simple.
Very simple.
So why would a landlord lease you his or her property? Why would the person do that? Why not just lease to? Don't they just lease to the tenant themselves?
I keep up with all the laws. I have a very special set of skills that was taught to me by David Tilney that allows me to really understand how to handle the tenants and treat them like people, which allows them to really take care of the properties that they're in instead of trashing them and having evictions and having tenants that don't pay. Through the 2020 cycle of where tenants did not have to pay landlords, I did not have one tenant that didn't pay me, not one, not even once. So there's skills that are taught there that allow us to find the right tenants for the right properties. And it's a skill set that it's developed over time, I guess.
So the main thing is you have a great skill of working with rental properties and tenants. And most landlords believe that landlord is a born knowing how to do a thing when in fact it's not. So
Right.
you have learned how to be a really good landlord, and you know which properties work best. So you don't just take on any property. You're picky about which ones you choose.
Exactly. Yep.
Well,
Pretty cool.
She has built a reputation, and there's one thing I try to teach everybody is you can hide behind a lot of clever names or companies, but people do business with people, and people's reputation goes beyond a company name. And Lindsay built her reputation as a good landlord, and people, not only did she network and do the things that she knows to do, but people heard about her because she did well for other people, and therefore it's almost like the business came to her. So again, that reputation is very important. And she has leveraged that into a portfolio and I mean, all these master leases are basically recession proof, I guess, income that she has, that she's not responsible for any of the downside. Her job is to do better than the typical property manager out there, which she does. And therefore she has all the job security, if you want to call it that, because it's not a job, it's passive income. It's not taxed the same, it's taxed better, both for her and the owner of said properties. So there's advantages to both, which again creates an anchor of that income stream that's far more, has a far bigger safety net than like traditional property management.
Lindsay, there's something known in the business. Let's say you've been a landlord for a long time, and you're happy, you have your properties, you have your money coming in. But I know there are landlords out there that are seasoned, and they have something called MAFs, mess around Fridays. And so they just want to have their Fridays off to go do whatever they want to go do. Maybe it's also a Thursday and Wednesday, whatever it is. So are you working with those landlords as well?
Oh, of course. I make their life easy. Honestly, it's easy for me too. I would say if I wasn't teaching or still expanding my portfolio, the 70 properties that I take care of would take me less than 5 hours a week.
I'm sorry, how many properties are you taking care of?
70.
Okay, that's the lead to my next question. You are renowned for being great at systems. You are phenomenal at systems. So can you talk a little bit about what systems are you using to be able to track and control and take care of 70 properties? That's mind-boggling to the average real estate investor, landlord, who normally has about 3 or 4 properties. So how are you doing this? What systems do you have in place?
So I develop checklists every time I run through a new scenario of buying a house or whatever it is. I make out a checklist of everything that has to happen when I either rent a property, buy a property in a certain way, or whatever that may be. I then put it into either Trello or Trello.
I'm sorry, into what?
Trello is a system that you can use checklists in. We'll just leave it at that. So that is one of the systems I use to make sure that I can check my boxes of my lists of what has to be done every single time. The other one for the landlording side is Buildium, and it's property management software, but that seriously allows me to work with one assistant, and we track everything in there. And this system really does a lot for us. It lists the properties online for us. It takes payments for us. It alerts me if someone's late. It applies late fees for whatever I've set up for it to apply them. So a lot of stuff within that is automated. And once you have that set up, your life is pretty freeing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to take a sidetrack just for a second. So again, you are using names of different things that you're using, programs you're using. Y'all have talked about different ways you're doing your deals, finding your deals. But how can someone learn to do what you do?
I think part of it is starting with learning the different kinds of deals that you can do, right? So running through deals is the start of it. And then after that, I do offer a course that teaches these exact systems as well. So there is possibilities for people to learn this stuff.
Okay, and I see that your email is right below your name on the screen. What is it?
It's Lindsay at cleverkittyinvesting.com.
Clever Kitty Investing. I love that. So this is questions for both of you two. How are you finding your deals right now in this market? Michael, you want to start?
Sure. I am not as active as I used to be. I built up a portfolio in the last cycle. I was able to.
Wait, whoa. It kind of
pretty-
sounds like when I went to Lindsay and said about these investors that like to mess around on Fridays. Is she describing you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's more than just Fridays, Bill.
I don't like to, only do Fridays, but I mean, right now, on any given day, I can be retired. On any given day, I can be an investor, but I don't have to do transactions. I don't have to create active income anymore. All our income is passive. So most of the deals right now I'm getting are merely through my network. And that again is building a reputation over time, keeping your promises, and providing value to people up front before expectation of deals. And I'll give you an example. It's a deal I passed on last week, but nonetheless, I had first crack at it. But a house that had amazing Pikes Peak views, backs to open space, desirable floor plan, very good school districts, and $125,000 under market. And I chose not to do that because the only way that would meet the needs of the seller in this particular case was, as you affectionately call Bill, the big hammer, all cash. And I'm not going in. That seems like a big spread, but when you factor in renovation and other factors, it wasn't good enough for right where we're at in the market. So if I could, this was brought to me by a real estate agent, and that's a real estate agent that I helped in the short sale boom, that I've never not failed to do at least one or two transactions with every year, because I helped her when she needed help before asking for help in return, if that makes sense. So, I mean, back then she was doing a ton of short sales. Everyone was doing short sales. She needed somebody to help stop people who waited to the last minute. They needed a contract to buy the house so they could get that short sale started and stop the foreclosure. And I was that person. And I would give proof of funds and write a contract, knowing that most of these I'd never buy them in the first place. But for her, it helped her help the homeowner, stop the foreclosure. And a lot of these were nice houses, nice neighborhoods. And even though she was able to discount them, she wasn't able to get them to prices that I would pay as a cash buyer. So I provided that value to her. And as a result, anytime she gets a problem property that can be bought right, I get first crack. And I mean, the value of that relationship has been, at least a couple of transactions every year by providing value first, and just, that was it, really. I mean, I helped her before expectation of bring me something.
Would you say that's a good lesson for newer investors to learn, to go do for instead of asking to be done for?
Help first. And I mean, there's a law of reciprocity that if you help people, they're going to find a way to help you too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lindsay, question for you. How are you finding your deals in this market? Again, we've changed a little bit. So over the last 2 or 3 months, what are you doing differently than what are you doing, and what are you doing differently than you were doing a year or two ago?
A lot of my marketing stopped for the last couple of years just because the stuff that I was investing in wasn't there. And I was getting so many leads from the people around me that I had networked with, that I didn't want to do a ton more flips. And that was a lot of what was going on in the market during this time of high inflation. So I had plenty to keep me busy. Now I'm going back to marketing to help people who maybe owe too much on their properties, or which is probably a lot of them, or can't sell. And again, that wasn't there over the last couple of years, and now it's coming back. So I do direct mail. And that's where I'm getting a lot of mine now. And then again, I spent the last couple of years really hitting it hard with the networking. So I do have a lot of people from my network calling me.
One of the questions I get a lot is being a real estate investor worth it? So Lindsay, I want to follow up with you, just to ask, is being a real estate investor, has it been worth it to you?
Oh, 100%. Like, my husband and I could stop everything now and be completely fine and have a huge retirement. And that kind of security and time freedom and mental freedom, I guess, is 100% worth it, especially for only 6 years in the business. Like, I gave up 6 years, but I was still always able to be with my kids. Like, if I needed to be with them, I was with them. It wasn't like working a W-2 job. So I worked hard, but I was able to be where I needed to be for my family. So yeah, 100% worth it.
Michael, same question for you. As far as real estate investing, has it been worth it to you? What has this done for you?
Well, absolutely. I mean, thinking back to my corporate days, I remember a friend in what we used to call still call the cubicle farm, came over one day and said, was talking about how to retire by age 50. And that question really hit me hard. And I looked and I went on like, okay, if I keep putting money in my 401k and I keep doing this, and like, let's figure out what kind of rate of return the stock market does. And the numbers never worked out. I couldn't save my way to retirement by 50. And by doing real estate, not only was I able to retire before the age of 50, I was able to retire above the top 1% in the entire nation, and more like the 0.1%. It's been the world to me. Like, I've been mostly retired for over 5 years. The quality of life with my wife, with my son, the ability to travel, to not be stressed out. And I mean, I know how to work a financial calculator, but I don't know how to plug in the yield of the time over the next several decades of my life that I don't have to sit in a cubicle farm or to put 40 to 60 or 80 hours to somebody else's business. It's invaluable. So what I love about this business is you can kind of pick and choose what works for you. Not, working for yourself and it is not for everybody, but it doesn't mean you can't use these strategies to build your portfolio and like Lindsay, retire in a handful of years if she wants to. And she's obviously much younger than me and still a go-getter, and probably will still build her portfolio, as will I. I just don't have to do it at any pace. But my pace is still there, and I still do deals, and I love the business. I love teaching the business, and I love seeing the lights come on with other people by showing them the business, and hopefully shortcutting some of the lumps I've taken in the business. I know, Bill, you're very good at share. We're very open with what we did right, what we did wrong, and why we did do what we thought was wrong, and using that. Not to say, oh, we're perfect, we did everything right. Nobody does it right. You make as good of maneuvers, you learn, you take, I pulled this out the other day for a Zoom training I was doing, but like notes to self. What was I thinking? What was I good at? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What should I avoid in the future? And ultimately, every year it gets bigger because I'm still doing things, and I'm still doing transactions and learning by helping other people. I see what happens in their transactions, and how do we keep making it better and better. And I was able to do what I did shorter than some of my mentors because I used their advice. And when you shortcut the process by learning, and Bill, you and I both are the way we are because our mentors were the same way. They didn't teach a bunch of hype. They taught real world stuff, what worked, what didn't work, why they tried the stuff that didn't work, and how it didn't work out necessarily. And I mean, that advice is just as valuable as the what does work. And it's keeping us moving down a good path without fear, without putting transactions that could take us apart. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of creative real estate, is you can structure transactions that make sense in any market cycle. And ultimately, some of the best deals I ever did were back in 2006 and 2007, before the market tanked. And some of those deals that, I mean, if you look back in 2010, you'd probably see Mike really overpaid for that stuff. Did I? I retired because of those transactions. So, so I guess to sum up your question, yes, real estate been very, very good to me.
And that leads to a question for both of you. Y'all have a program coming up. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, well, you know how persistent Lindsay can be, Bill.
Yes.
And she's been persisting with me to teach this. I haven't taught this particular seminar in over 10 years, and we are teaching this together. I said, if I'm doing this, you're doing this with me because you have a lot to share. I mean, she has accomplished a significant amount in an incredibly short period of time. So we're teaching a class called 21 Ways to Buy, No Money Down. And basically, we're going to teach what I learned that works. And I wanted to build a model that I could rinse and repeat. And I know that's different from some of our mentors, but I wanted to find systems that, okay, what are the commonalities in the people I'm helping? How can I further target those situations? So if I'm good at these situations, how can I find as many of those as possible? So a lot of it is, how did we find these transactions? How did we solve these transactions? And both for, you know, short-term profits, long-term profits, buy and hold, options, all these creative concepts that we've used, how did we do a rinse and repeat model? And basically, we call it 21 ways because in marketing, you should have an odd number in your headline, but I'll give you the spoiler. There's more than 21 ways. and just what I'm going to share. And then Lindsay's going to share what she's done as well to build her 8-figure portfolio of property in very little time. And at one point, I've had over 155 single family houses in our portfolio. And that has shrunk, but that was, you know, $60 to $80 million worth of single family houses right in my own backyard. So if I can do it as the dullard that didn't get started till, you know, my 30s, anybody can do this stuff. And if you use some of what I did wrong, and like Lindsay, you can shortcut the process a whole lot more than what it took me.
So when will y'all be doing this course?
We're doing it on Zoom. Thank God Lindsay understands technology, because I wouldn't do this if it weren't for her. But we're doing this a 2-day seminar on Zoom.
And one of the things that people always ask is, let's say they take the course, they sat through it, and they're like, okay, I've taken this. What if it's not for them? Is there a money back guarantee?
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully we're going to blow you away with not one, but a bazillion different ways to acquire good assets in a market. But if you don't think you've been overwhelmed with quality information that you can use, just ask. We'll give you a prompt, courteous refund, no questions asked. And ultimately, you know, Lindsay and I aren't doing this for $297. I mean, we're doing this because, like you, Bill, you know, we were taught by our mentors to share what we've learned, and we kind of feel the obligation to share this information because creative real estate is an amazing way to help people that other people can't help, that a lot of the gurus out there don't teach ways to help these people. And we can help people that other people can't, and put, you know, very profitable transactions together. And if you use any of this, pick one thing. If you use it, share it with us. Tell us how you benefit from it. I'll give you your money back again. Just because I teach stuff.
Whoa. What?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I know if you teach somebody for free, most people aren't going to use it because that's the price that's the value of it for free. We charge people because we want people that are serious about doing something. And if they do something, I'll give them their money back, because it's not about the money for us. It's about, we do really want to help people, because I'm not as aggressive at buying. I'm not helping as many people as I used to because I'm lazy. You know, I worked really hard in my younger days, so I could be lazy and be retired on any given Friday or Wednesday or Thursday, or all those strung together for weeks and months at a time. But you know, if we can share these skills and help other people locally, nationally, again, it really is about, you know, Zig Ziglar was one of the books and the mentors I got out of the library. back when I started. And there's one thing that always set home is you can get anything in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And that has been my business philosophy throughout all of this. So help others, help as many people as we can, and also build insane profits like this through real estate is just an amazing business to get in. I don't know anything else that applies so many benefits from both income, capital gain, taxation. I mean, all the benefits that our tax code has to offer are in our benefit with this business. And anyway.
Well, one of the questions that people that have attended other real estate investing seminars, the question they're going to have is this an upsell to something else?
We don't have a something else. This is it. And I mean, in all reality, we'll probably charge more for this later. But we're trying to do this on Zoom. It's a new world. Things are different, and we're new to this. Okay, I'm new to this, and Lindsay probably understands this stuff, but ultimately the seminar is the seminar. That's it. You're going to walk away with different business systems to buy, and ultimately you have two people that you can contact after to hopefully help you have help once you get situations with homeowners that you're not certain which way to go. Hopefully you can email one of us or contact us, and we can really kind of help you put the final touches on those deals and really help people make some changes in their lives.
Okay, so a lot of times people are hearing this for the first time. Where do they go again if they want to kind of read through and exactly what's going to be covered? Where do they go? How do they sign up? Where do they go to read this through again and exactly what you're going to be covering?
21, as in the number 21, ways to buy nomoneydown.com.
Cool.
And I'm a living testimonial of what Michael's talking about, because he literally took a handful of these systems and these tools and taught them to me, and that's what I built my portfolio off of. So completely living testimonial off of what he teaches.
And then one of the things that we all know is when you're learning about real estate investing, when you're learning anything, you want to go to someone who's been there and done that, someone who's been successful. Also, you want to go to someone who's had some stumbles and trips and falls along the way. And anyone that tells you they have not, for God's sakes, don't go to them. They don't know. So you want someone who's been through downturns, someone who's had it tough times, because you learn from that. It's kind of like, how do they make steel? It's fire and pressure and hammering away at it. And that's what makes the steel strong. So that's going to be pretty cool. But this sounds like a really great opportunity for folks that are wanting to know more about investing, the creative side of investing, not just the normal side. So any parting thoughts, Lindsay?
I hope to see everyone there. I think this is exactly what you guys said earlier, that running through deals and scenarios is how I was able to take my business off so quickly. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing through this course. So
cool. Well, it's good talking to you guys. I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to being a part of the course and listening in and making a lot of notes. So awesome. Thank y'all very much.
Thanks,
Bill. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Bye.